Hi there, welcome to this week's edition of the Heart of a Youth Leader podcast. If you're new to us, thanks so much for joining us. Hope you enjoy it. These are short weekly podcasts to inspire you to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus in your youth or children's ministry. Now, one of the things I talk about a lot is being a role model. And I've been thinking this week about how much we tell young people to be careful of how much they are on their phones and on their screens. And as a dad, very aware of having done that with my children as they've grown up. But it's got me thinking about, how much do we as leaders model to them good use of these things? It's a bit like I'm amazed when I see, not amazed, just saddened when I see like a parent cycling on the road with their primary school aged children on their bikes, that the children will have helmets, but the mum or the dad won't have a helmet. I don't know if you've seen that. And it's just like you're modelling, you don't need to wear a helmet once you're old enough or proficient enough. Now that may be what they think, but it seems to me a bit unwise. And I think we do the same with our phones and our screens. That it's easy to say, oh, you've got to be careful, come off your phone, or you've had enough time on your Xbox. And then as a parent or as a leader, actually we don't model responsible use of our screen time. I'm encouraged by John Mark Comer, the American pastor, who says you've got to parent your screen. Just as you'd put your kids to bed, put your phone to bed. Have a time in the evening, 8 o'clock or something, where you actually switch off your phone. But here's the thing I'm really questioning today, is how many of us could actually do without our phone? How many of us have actually made our phone like an additional appendage to our body, and it's part of who you are? And if that's the case, we have to be aware that that's what we're modelling, and the young people will replicate how we act far more than what we say or how we say you should act. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've been thinking about how Jesus had such a desire to get away from it all, to spend time with his Father. Today I've been thinking about Matthew 14, where Jesus has just heard the bad news about John the Baptist being killed. And it says in Matthew 14, verse 13, when Jesus heard this happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. So as soon as he heard the bad news, he had to get away to be with his Father. But what happens is the crowd are still desperate to find him. They still want to be with him. They want to hear from him and be healed. So it says, hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed those who were ill. And it's wonderful, isn't it, that Jesus' desire to be with his Father doesn't lead to frustration or anger or any of those kind of emotions, but actually leads to love. It leads him to have compassion, to have kindness. His heart is moved by the lengths the crowd will go to seek him out. And for me, it's like, how much do we seek our Father out? Or how much actually do we just spend our spare time on our phone? How much is it much easier when we get a moment to ourselves to indulge ourselves with some pretty pointless app or a game or a social media scroll or a Netflix program rather than actually seeking the Father out. And what happens is Jesus goes on to perform the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 in this passage. And it's like, even though he was seeking the Father, he was distracted by the compassion he felt for these people who were lost and needing him. But the thing is, when he's finished feeding them, it then says in verse 22, immediately, having fed them, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat, go on ahead of him to the other side of the lake, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. His desire this whole day was to pray. His desire this whole day was to be with the Lord. What is your desire? What is your primary desire? And are you fulfilling that? And so I want to remind us that actually our primary desire is the Lord. spending time with him and modelling that to him. And that will mean disconnecting from our technology. It will mean being still or being quiet or finding our space. And I'm doing some teaching with some young people this evening on practices and the kind of what used to be called spiritual disciplines, about actually how we need to put ourselves in a place where we're open to God speaking to us. And I'm worried that a lot of us are just not doing it. We're not putting ourselves in a place where God can speak to us. Now, whether that is the practice of prayer or reading our Bible or solitude and silence or fasting or worship or celebration or secrecy or Sabbath, we need to pick these up. We need to pick these up to find the place where we can be more open to what God wants to say to us. And just as Jesus went to find a lonely place, I want to encourage you to think, where's your lonely place? I have a favourite chair in my house, which is kind of my chair. It's in a side corner of our living room, and it's great because it gets the sunshine in the morning if we have any, and it's sort of part of the main room, but it's set apart, and it's just kind of a really nice place to sit. And it's interesting because when I sit there and I'm reading, I can read for ages and not be disturbed. As soon as I sit there and start to pray, I get someone going, "What are you doing, Dad? Can you do this? Can you do this?" And it's like that kind of feels like the same kind of distraction that Jesus had from the crowd. And the challenge for me is to know whether to go, actually give me 10 minutes, I'm praying, or actually have compassion and go, yeah, no worries, what can I help you with? And sometimes they get one and sometimes they get the other. But my kids see me modelling that I want to spend time with the Lord. So I have a favourite chair. Where's your favourite place? Where's your quiet place, your solitary place? And how often do you use it? I love the idea of, I love coffee, and so in the mornings, my first coffee I spend with God. I have a lot of meetings in my days, meeting up with youth leaders and church leaders and that kind of thing, and we have coffee together. And the meeting tends to last, how long does the coffee last? And so I thought a few years ago, actually, I want to have a coffee with God. I don't want to meet with other people for longer than I meet with him. And so my first coffee, whatever time of day it is, I try and make that a coffee meeting with the Lord. And I can read the Bible, I can pray, I can listen, I can just sit in his presence. And it's so nice to be able to sit with the Lord, even not saying anything, and just communing together and being aware of his presence and his love. I don't know about you, but all I want to say is let's make this a priority, because this is what we're really modelling about what faith is like to our young people. Let me know how you get on and go for it.